She's called the grandmother of sanctuary cities. I'm going to terminate all sanctuary cities. Sanctuary cities are sanctuary for criminals. They're sanctuaries for criminals. She should save her airfare. She should go back to the White House and tell the president to close the border. He can do it with the signing of just a signature on a piece of paper to the Border Patrol.
All right, Texas Public Safety Lieutenant Chris Olivarez joins me now. Can a president just order cities and states to abandon their sanctuary city status?
Good morning, Stuart. I think that's going to be a tough challenge because for the most part, these sanctuary cities or states, I mean, they're governed by their own local government as well. City mayors, they set those procedures in place for their cities to become a sanctuary status. Now, of course, doesn't mean that the federal government can also end federal funding to some of these cities or states for programs that could put pressure on some of these cities and states to end their sanctuary status. Now, of course, we know when cities and states have a sanctuary status, it does provide an incentive for illegal immigrants. We've seen that over the last 3.5 years with the situation that we've been dealing with right now on the border. But of course, at the end of the day, it's not so much the sanctuary status that's also attracting these illegal immigrants, but it's the fact that there is no policies in place to prevent them from even making that journey from their country. And now when they're being released, regardless of where they're at, whether it's a sanctuary city or state, they're still being released to the country either through direct flights between ports of entry or through the use of the CBP-1 app, which is a complete fraud. We talk about the parole process that's being used by the current federal government right now to release illegal immigrants into the country. So I think it's going to be an uphill battle. I think it's going to require a lot of legal challenges, maybe even Congress getting involved. But at the end of the day, we need to stop the flow at the border, and then we can actually try to take care of the situations in the interior.
How about this Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua? It is spreading throughout the country. Here in New York, they're using migrant shelters to organize their criminal enterprise. How do we get them out when they've been paroled into this country legally?
Stuart, that's a problem right there. We talked about this. You heard the prosecutor there. This is a nationwide problem. And we've seen that in El Paso, especially the amount of Venezuelans that have come across the border between the ports of entry. But also that, Stuart, you also have to keep in mind of the audience as well, is that the federal government is still flying direct flights from Venezuela into the United States, releasing thousands of Venezuelans into the country right now. Not to say that all Venezuelans are involved with TDA or have a criminal background, but you're going to have a TDA presence among those thousands, and we're seeing that right now. In Texas, Governor Abbott has mentioned we are going to take the charge on this. We have different programs in place. We have specialized investigators that are part of this anti-gang unit that are going to identify and arrest these TDA members in the state of Texas, because we know for a fact that if we can identify them in Texas, we can prevent their presence and other crimes in other countries. In other states. So it's very important. But again, it all goes back to what caused the situation that we've been dealing with for the last 2.5 years. Sure. It's the federal government not putting stricter policies in place.
And Kamala Harris will be at the border today to see what she's done. Lieutenant Chris Olivarez, thanks for joining us this morning, Chris. We'll see you again later.
Thank you so much, Stuart.